3 hard knocks slammed into my front door like warning shots. Not the kind of knock a neighbor gives. Not casual. Not polite. These were aggressive, urgent, meant to rattle you before you even opened the door. My chest tightened as I pulled it open. 2 police officers stood on my porch, red and blue lights spinning across my house. And right behind them stood Karen from the HOA. Arms crossed. Chin lifted. That smug smile she always wore when she thought she finally had someone cornered. "Sir," one of the officers said calmly, "we received a complaint that you're denying residents access to a community pool." That was the exact moment I knew this wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was intentional. My name is Michael Blake. Until recently, all I wanted was peace. After years of burnout working brutal hours in Houston, I moved back to my hometown, to the house I grew up in. The house my grandfather built. The land my family had owned since the 1960s. And behind that house was a pool. Not a fancy one. Not a luxury resort. A simple pool my grandfather poured with his own hands in 1965. I learned to swim there. My father taught me how to fix cracked tiles there. Every summer memory I had seemed tied to that water. It was private property. Always had been. At least, that's what I believed. A few weeks earlier, I'd received a letter in the mail. White envelope. Gold HOA logo. The kind that already makes your stomach drop before you even open it. "Dear resident," it read, "you are required to unlock the community pool located on your property for resident use." I laughed. Out loud. Community pool? The pool behind my house existed decades before the HOA was even formed. It wasn't on their land. It wasn't in their bylaws. I assumed it was a clerical mistake, tossed the letter aside, and went on with my day. That assumption cost me weeks of hell. 2 days later, Karen showed up in her silver SUV. She stepped out like she owned the ground beneath her feet. Clipboard tucked under her arm like a badge. "Mr. Blake," she said, without greeting me, "we need to discuss the pool." She explained that residents had complained about restricted access. As vice president of the HOA, she was there to ensure compliance. That word, compliance, was her favorite. I calmly told her the pool was private property. Always had been. Always would be. Her smile tightened. "Our updated HOA maps show this parcel within HOA jurisdiction," she said confidently. I asked to see them. She brushed it off. Then came the threats. Daily fines. Liens. Legal action. "I'd hate for this to get ugly," she said softly. I told her no. Firmly. And I walked away. The next morning, a bright orange violation notice was taped to my gate. Failure to provide community pool access. $500 per day. Then another notice. And another. Unauthorized fencing. Unapproved pool hours. Unauthorized gatherings, which apparently included me and my neighbor Ray sitting by the pool drinking sweet tea. Then they drilled a metal sign into my fence. Mapler Community Pool Rules. They branded my property. Neighbors started stopping by, asking when the pool would open. Kids pointed at it like it already belonged to them. I felt surrounded. Pressured. Slowly suffocating under paperwork and threats. That night, I sat alone by the pool. The water was still. Quiet. I stared at the reflection of my grandfather's old workshop lights shimmering across the surface. And I'll admit it. I doubted myself. Maybe giving in was easier. Maybe unlocking the gate would make the stress disappear. HOAs grind people down every day, and I was just one guy standing alone. I felt small. Outnumbered. The next morning, the cops arrived. Karen stood behind them like a queen watching her soldiers work. She told them I was illegally denying access to a community amenity. Claimed she'd managed the pool for years. Even said she'd collected fees from residents. One officer paused. You collected money for a pool you don't own? Karen's smile twitched. The officers walked the property with me. Saw the fence, the layout, the clear boundaries. I offered to show deeds. They quickly realized something didn't add up. They ruled it a civil matter and warned Karen not to call police again without proof. But the glare she gave me as she left sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't done. That's when I realized something crucial. This was never about pool access. I called Emma Porter, an old college friend who'd become an environmental attorney. When I explained everything, she didn't hesitate. Michael, she said, this is intimidation. Possibly fraud. Start documenting everything. She came that weekend. Spread documents across my dining table. Deeds. Tax records. County plats. My neighbor Ray even brought old newspaper clippings from the 1960s, photos of my grandfather standing proudly beside the newly built pool. Those photos hit harder than any HOA notice ever could. Then we found it. A glossy flyer in Ray's mailbox. Mapler Phase 2, Luxury Expansion. Tennis courts. Fitness center. Landscaped lawns. And right in the center of the rendering, my pool. Photoshopped. Labeled as an existing community amenity. My stomach dropped. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was selling something she didn't own. Using my pool to inflate property value. Attract investors. Expand the HOA's power. Betting I'd fold before anyone noticed. She miscalculated. At the next HOA meeting, Karen stood confidently at the podium presenting the expansion plans. Residents applauded. Investors nodded along. I stood up, deed in hand. This pool, I said, voice steady but burning, has been private property since 1965. The room went silent. Emma stepped beside me and laid the county maps on the table. One by one, Karen's lies collapsed. Neighbors whispered. Someone shouted, "We've been paying fees for that." Karen's face drained of color. Court finished what the meeting started. The HOA's lawyer tried to twist history into ownership. The judge shut him down with one question. Do you have a deed? No, Your Honor. Then sit down. The ruling was immediate. The pool was private property. All fines void. The case was referred to the county prosecutor for fraud investigation. Within weeks, audits exposed misuse of funds. HOA board members resigned. Investors sued. Karen, the woman who once strutted through the neighborhood like she owned it, couldn't even meet my eyes at the grocery store. And me? I didn't celebrate. One evening, I unlocked the pool gate just once. Not for the HOA. For my father. We sat by the water in silence. The legacy stayed where it belonged. Because when someone tries to rewrite your history, you don't give in. You make damn sure they never get to hold the pen.